Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another rendition of the Texas Hockey Podcast. I am your host, Trevor Neal. I'm with my co-host, Travis Tyler. How are you doing this afternoon, Travis?
That's to be determined, I'd say.
To be
It's
determined,
it's a
yes.
little it's not totally a great game after that, so I don't really
No.
know how to feel.
Yeah, I don't really know what to do with the rest of my day. The game today started at 2. It is currently 5:07 Central Time. So we
So you're
are
one of these
used to
knocked
this
out
being at
early.
like
Yeah.
midnight because of a weird start time today. Today was game 3 between the Dallas Stars and Edmonton Oilers. The series headed back to Edmonton today, and the Stars. The story of the series kind of continued. It was a 6-1 loss, and we're going to kind of get into a little bit more. But it was kind of an extension of the problems we talked about in games 1 and 2. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely I think we've both agreed that they played pretty much their best two periods where
Mm,
they didn't have a power play for
yeah,
for 6 minutes during those first two periods today, and it still
yeah.
wasn't enough.
Yeah, no, there's times in this game, and I want to start by saying the final score is awful, and this was not a good game for the Stars whatsoever. But I think overall the Stars actually played their best game of the series today, and whether we want to take that as a positive or a negative, we're gonna get further into. But the deserve to win meter for the Dallas Stars at one point was at like a 60%. They were outplaying the Oilers for chunks of this game. It did not execute whatsoever. And it kind of going into this game was the biggest story. Was Rupe Hintz going to be available to go? I honestly was surprised he made the trip to
Yeah.
Edmonton today, let alone he did start warm-ups. It sounded like he just skated a little bit and then came off, and then they started line rushes. So Rupe was unavailable for game 3, and he would have helped for sure, but I don't think that's the difference between a win and a loss.
Yeah, yeah, he's not breaking the game open against these guys.
He doesn't.
Especially
He's not.
especially when he probably wasn't going to be 100% even if he played. So
No,
it,
no, and he's not a 5 goal difference. No single player is a 5 goal difference.
I mean that
Um,
that that score is not an indication of what kind of game this really was for the most part.
no,
But yeah,
the I think the biggest storyline that kind of happened on the ice today. Stewart Skinner is the most important player on the ice in this Western Conference Final, the same way he was in the Western Conference Final between these two teams last year. Which I'll take some blame because we talked about leading up into the series how rocky Stewart Skinner has been
hmm
and how rocky Edmonton's net has been through the first 2 rounds. And Stewart Skinner has just completely taken over the series, having a fantastic game today. Um, Weird playoff for him so far. This is his first one of the playoffs in which he allowed a goal. So it's a
yeah,
weird little thing for him, but he kept the Stars soundly out of this game today.
yeah. I mean, to your point, I saw something on Twitter that was like, if Knobloch had it was like Knobloch had the cojones to make a big move, he'd pull Skinner the first time he lets in a goal.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, the Stars got what 37 shots in this game and only scored once. That's crazy good
Yeah.
numbers for a goalie.
36 shots for the Stars,
36
24
shots, something like
for the
that.
Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, so they outshot Edmonton and still got outscored by 5. They outshot them really well, still got outscored by 5. And this is a goalie that was coming into this series with like a .875 save percentage or something like that. And he's
Mhm.
aside from those power play goals and the weird bounces that happened in game 1, he's been shutting them down.
Yeah. Do you think he's playing better than Ottinger? Just overall, is he the better goalie in the series?
I
It's
think
tough to answer.
no, it is very tough to answer. I think you have to lean towards yes,
Mm-hmm.
um, just by the way things are going. But
Yeah.
then again, Ottinger is facing such a bigger test. It seems like with what
Yeah.
Edmonton has on their roster, whereas Skinner, it's like the Stars have that skill and everything, but the way they're putting pucks on the net, it's like he can see every shot coming. Like there's nothing blocking his vision or anything like that. Nothing getting in the way like some of these goals have on Oettinger.
Yeah, I think he hasn't been perfect in the series against Edmonton by any means, but I think he's seeing such a high level of these high danger opportunities compared to Skinner. I think if Skinner was playing for the Stars, we would probably see 5 or 6 goal nights.
Yeah.
But I don't know if any goalie is going to stop the kind of barrage that Edmonton's bringing on right now. Tonight, you get 2 goals from McDavid. You get 2 goals from Hyman. I believe they said it was like 5 or 6 different players had a multi-point
Got
night.
a goal from John Klingberg.
Yeah, Klingberg scored. Like, it's everything. It's not even – no, everything is going in for the Oilers.
Yeah.
Really taking advantage of every opportunity they're getting. What's concerning to me, and I think is going to be the main topic of discussion today, the Stars played their best game of the series. Like, they hung with the Oilers for the vast majority of this game. They
dictated for most of the game, honestly.
Yeah, they hung
just hang with them. Yeah.
Yeah, they outplayed them for large portions. Stewart Skinner prevented it, but a back-breaking goal at the end of the second period to restore the 2-goal lead. The Stars just kind of get hemmed in their own zone in the last 45 seconds, and a little misplay by Rantanen. McDavid gets space, and space plus McDavid equals goal.
Yeah.
And it was hard to bounce back after that.
You can't give him any space. I mean, he makes his own space even if there isn't space. So if you give him space, he's got a head start. There was almost no chance of shutting that goal down, and it came at the worst time for the Stars. There was
said it.
No way.
It felt like as soon as that went in, it didn't quite feel the way
like
that other deficits has.
Yeah.
Exactly. But what scares me about the Stars going to the rest of the series, they're now down 2-1. The next game will be on Tuesday night. This was their best game of the series. So is it concerning that their best play gets them a 6-1 loss result?
I mean,
is that scary?
I feel like you don't have to ask that question even.
Yeah.
It answers itself just because you're asking it. Yeah, it's concerning. Yeah. I mean, you look at how deep this team is and how good they're supposed to be, and then they're getting outplayed like this by the same team that knocked them out in the playoffs last year. And obviously, the injury to Hintz doesn't help. And they're like they can say anything they want about how confident they are in the depth and the guys that they're about to play that they're filling in there, but it's a completely different thing to actually go out and do it and execute with those guys in there.
Yeah, I think it's important to look at the Stars in this series before and after Rube injury. Now that we have a scope on both, it really didn't change that much. The Oilers were beating them in the same way, and it's what we talked about these last 2 episodes. Where even after the win in Game 1, the pretty poor performance of Game 2, they just don't look fast enough.
Yeah,
and it's hard to get chances against this Oilers team. I know McDavid had a pretty funny quote after Game 2 about, look, we do have defense. Yes, they do. They're a solid defensive team. The Stars are getting some opportunities, not as many as they'd like, but where they're falling short is they just aren't capitalizing at all. It was good to see Robertson finally get his first of the series, even though we can smack a big asterisk on that. That was a Bichelle goal that hit Robertson on the way in, but it's good to see him get on the score sheet.
He should have had one right before that. He sent it right over the crossbar. He had a wide open net that he should have buried. So he's getting rewarded for the effort that he put in on that series by the hockey gods having the puck hit him on the way to the net.
Yeah, he finally got the bounce that Duchesne talked about wanting. But like other than
Duchesne had some bad luck in that too. He had a real nice opportunity to make this a game. And
other than Robertson finally getting on the score sheet, are there really many positives to take from the Stars' loss? Like what actually looked good? I think that list is short, but are there positives that we could take and maybe try to grab some momentum before an extremely important game 4 on Tuesday?
Momentum-wise, probably not. But the way they came out and the effort that they started the game with, like we said, dictating it, that's probably the biggest positive to take away. We've talked about, and they've talked about all season, how their responses as a team after losses have been something that drives them under Pete DeBoer over the past couple of years. And that hadn't, like, obviously they won game 1, so it's not a response to a loss, but they didn't really come out in game 2 the way you wanted to see after the way they played in game 1.
Mm-hmm.
They came out in game 3, at least for those first 2 periods, especially the second period, playing the way that you wanted to see after that shutout loss in game 1 or in game 2.
Yeah. No, I think we've seen 2 different Stars teams in this series. We've seen the vast majority of the series, and then we have this 20-minute span.
Yeah.
And even in that 20-minute span at the end of game 1, they weren't perfect, but they got 5 goals there in 1 or 2 goals the rest of the series combined.
Yeah. And
it's go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and today they were more aggressive, felt like we were more confident with the puck and just skating faster at the beginning. They just couldn't keep it up for the entire game because Edmonton's got so much of that speed, like we talk about, and a little bit, as we're finding out now, a little bit more skilled and in depth than what we probably thought they had, and than what Dallas has.
Yeah, I think, and it's such a cool turn. Like, if we're looking at it from outside of a Dallas perspective, the Stewart Skinner story really is a feel-good one.
Mm-hmm.
It was obvious from his interviews after game 2. That's a locker room guy, and it really seems like the Oilers love playing with him. And it's good to see how much he's been able to turn around throughout his kind of playoff from the start, getting torched for 11 goals in the first 2 games against LA to being pulled, getting switched out by Pickard. Pickard gets hurt, and they have to go back to Skinner. And the type of – that would be hard, I would imagine. This team has given up on me. It has taken me out, and I have to play again. And we've seen 3 shutouts, another extremely – this was one weird bounce away from another shutout. The Stars probably could have gotten shut out tonight very easily, but his story has been fantastic to watch.
Yeah. If they got shut out tonight, that would have been even more disheartening. Oh my gosh. Yeah. This would, like, it's already going to be kind of a negative show. It would be even more negative if they got shut out.
At least we have this one fluky goal we get to talk about.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd have like a siren or some kind of button on my desk, and I'd be slamming it repeatedly. Like,
yeah. Do they need to make changes going into game 2? Because like you've said, they did come out a lot better. I think they started the first period much. It feels like game 1 and 2, the game started and Edmonton was already rolling as soon as the puck dropped. Tonight, it felt like a little bit more back and forth to start the game. Then McDavid scores, and we're back to where we've been. Do you make changes, or do you treat game 3 as they got 6 past us, let's keep pushing? Like, where do you go from here?
I feel like whatever they're doing isn't quite working. So to me, you got to change something. Where I'm stuck is I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
so
I like
thank
the
God
idea.
I'm not on the coaching staff or in the organization.
No, Pete has a really tough
thing
here, and it's really hard to fix a problem that should be your strength and has been all season. And we get in the playoffs, and it just stops. This is a team built for depth. Yeah. It is because outside of Mikko Rantanen, this team does not have a true world-beating superstar. Rantanen was really the first kind of superstar this roster has seen, so they really have to do well in depth. They don't have this 1-2 crazy punch at the top of the lineup like Edmonton does, so you need 4 lines rolling at all times. And at most, throughout these entire first 3 rounds, the conversations here, have we had more than one good line at a time?
Right. That's kind of been almost the story of
Yeah.
the playoffs, really. Like you talk about the depth scoring in general and how much depth it looks like they have on this team, and that they showed during the regular season. There's just not it's not showing up in the playoffs. It's been one good line at a time, mostly ranting in for a lot of it. So you gotta get better results from the guys. I'm not saying like the effort has kind of been there for a lot of them. There's just results aren't coming.
Yeah, no, it's even so they started the playoffs. Like the first games against Colorado were not pretty.
Mhm.
Ranton and Rupe heat up, so they go on this heater together. Then Mikko's really slowed down. We saw a little stretch with like Granlund was our best guy for a few games there. It seems like it's nobody right now. Everybody on the team is snake bitten. Hopefully you can take maybe Robertson starting to feel himself a little bit more. The hands loosen up a little bit now that you finally caught one. And that's likely probably will have a better game 4, but it's like everyone's ice cold. And a guy that I really want to point a finger at, like we can be harsh. Wyatt Johnston has not been good enough for the type of player that he's not that even what we're told, but he's shown that he is as a playoff performer. I don't believe he has a goal since Game 7 against Colorado. I don't believe he scored against Winnipeg. We need him to step up. Tyler and Dutchie, I really think are playing better than they did the first half of these playoffs. But again, they've gotten one goal. Or no, Sagan had the 2, and then Dutchie had 1.
Right, yeah.
We need to see something.
Yeah. I mean, Wyatt's got to be frustrated with what he's gotten so far.
Yeah.
Like
especially considering his history.
Yeah, he's been a really good playoff performer early in his career, and he had a really good series against Edmonton last year. So you would think that going up against Skinner and that Edmonton team would give him some more confidence, and he'd be potting more goals. But it just hasn't happened. He's had a couple chances, and honestly, if one of those guys finally breaks through, it gives the Stars a much better chance of finding a way to come back in this series.
Yeah. No, this 2-1 deficit really does feel, I would call it more daunting than a regular 2-1 deficit. It feels closer to a 3-1 than a 2-1, at least mentally, kind of where I'm at viewing the team.
It could have easily been 3-0 right now. You could
excuse these 5 minutes. Yes.
You could easily be staring down the barrel of the season ending on Tuesday. Luckily, they're not, but that's the way it was. And if
you could argue they deserve to have their season on the line right now with how they played this season. You could argue that.
You expect with Edmonton knocking them out last year and getting another shot at them, and the two teams basically going into this series being conceivable, similar, if not similar skill levels, if not Dallas. A lot of people thinking Dallas had the advantage at one point. They haven't lived up to the hype. They haven't lived up to what you thought you were going to see in this series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's. I think we really nailed what was happening in the series from Game 1 on. The Stars have had some pretty major flaws in the way that they're playing, not necessarily roster-wise, through the first 2 rounds. The lack of depth, but we got around it from scoring explosions is what I'd call them. They score quickly, and they come in spurts, but they're going through stretches where just the offense looks uninspired and boring. It's not a fun offense to watch right now. Everyone's struggling. And we're going at Wyatt Johnston for having a extremely poor playoff at the moment. But that's so much pressure that we're asking of a kid who just turned 21. Like, that's a lot to ask of where he is at. This pressure should be evenly distributed. And it's just, what do you need to do?
There's a lot of pressure on the young guys right now, and that's not necessarily fair.
No.
That you expected this playoff run to be much more evenly distributed than it has been. And that's one of the things that needs to change, and I don't know how you go about doing that strategically or anything like that. But
well, look at the Stars during the regular season. Our leading scorer only had 82 points. And you don't win 50 games with your leading scorer only having 82 without stupid depth.
Yeah.
With where scoring's at right now. To not even a guy get over a point per game is wild. So it's just an awful spot to be in. It really feels like the team is just kind of shriveled up in this Edmonton series. We're looking at a Tuesday night game in which your season is 1,000% on the line.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, they had 5 guys with 50-point seasons during the regular season.
Exactly. So, that's not common.
Yeah. And there were, let's see, 3 – so in 8 guys with at least 40 points. So that's pretty solid depth there.
Yeah. And it's gone. It's gone. They look – I wouldn't even call them a one-line team. They look like a team that is just – they're waiting for the next bounce, I think is a really good way to look at them right now. Well, but whatever is – they're waiting for it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at these point leaders of the guys I just mentioned, and the only guys that are really showing up in these games are from those top 8 are Harley and Hintz. Everybody else is just not performed up to expectation.
Harley's had a pretty up and down series so far as well. He's not bad by any means, and today we'll call 2.5 penalties so far this series because today's was. Just get him off the ice. Let's just go home. It's 6-1. That would never get called.
Yeah.
No. But I get it. But 3 penalties is still a story.
Yeah, I guess my criteria for that was somebody that's made a notable play in this series. Nobody else on that list has made a notable play, or at least in the playoffs even. Harley had the series clincher against Winnipeg. So, I mean, he's in there. And then obviously we've talked about how Hintz has played when he's been in there.
Yeah, fantastic. The loss of Hintz, I don't think hurt them as much. Hintz would not have that
wouldn't have made a difference.
Hintz would not have made a difference.
It's more of a series long impact than a singular game.
The fact that he skated in warm up today, I don't know how much to look into it because it may be
I was surprised
out where his foot is. Yes.
After watching that and seeing how he couldn't even put pressure on it getting off the ice the other night, I was shocked he was even on a plane out there.
I want to say, the fact he's skating looks good for game 4, but him skating in warm-up could mean, maybe he's ready to go. We'll see how he feels. Or it could be, we didn't have practice today, and this is the equivalent of him wearing a no contact. Yeah. We need to put him on the ice somehow.
No morning skate. We had to figure it out. Yeah.
So his availability for game 4 is completely up in the air as well. I would not look too much into him being in warm-up at all. Don't even think about it twice. We're sitting here talking about it. But it's game 4. It needs to be – they need to play at times the way they did today, but actually just execute. Get the finish. The finish is – not come to this team all playoffs other than these short bursts.
Yeah.
But we're not necessarily out yet. It's still only a 2-1 deficit, as negative as this episode's been so far. What I would call a little bit more negative and a little bit more of a dire situation is what's happening in Raleigh. Hurricanes fans are not okay at all.
No. They're getting hit by Hurricane Rod right now.
Hurricane Rod. That's good.
Probably should have used more of a Florida term because it's more like Florida's getting them.
No, it's fine. It's just Hurricane Rod. It's fine.
Yeah.
They're down 3-0 now to the Florida Panthers. Who look, this is what I want to say about the Hurricanes. I texted my girlfriend about this morning. The Hurricanes are doing so badly against the Panthers and are just getting outplayed in every facet of the game that people are complimenting the Leafs.
Yep.
That's where we're at. People are like, man, the Leafs must have been pretty good.
Your conference final happened in the second round.
I hate saying that so much because I'm like, don't tease the little Leaf heart that I have. It's like, no, we're in the second round. Don't give them an excuse to try it again.
Either way, you're not in the cup final. So
No, we're not in the Cup final, and Florida has made just quick work of the Hurricanes. The way that they have beat them, there has not been a game in which the Hurricanes have looked in.
It's sad. I've turned every game off in the second period or at the second intermission, and that's hanging in for a long time compared to most people.
So we see game 1, a 5-2 loss, and I bet they'd be praying for a 5-2 loss right now with the way that games 2 and 3 have gone. A 5-0 loss in game 2, and the worst part about that 5-0 loss is you lose 5-0, and then you have to go to Florida.
Yeah, you go
down 2-0, and the Hurricanes had a slightly better effort in game 3. They tied the series for the first time, other than a 0-0 tie. It didn't last very long.
Yeah.
With 2 pairs of goals in a 30-second span, and it's like you were in this, and then Florida just said, "No, you aren't."
What was it? It was 3-2, and then all of a sudden 6-2.
Yeah, you look away from you look away and you turn back, and it's like Florida. The game is over.
Yeah,
and it's effortless the way it's surgical the way that they're killing the Hurricanes
right now. They look really scary. It's
going into the conference final preview episode that we did. We talked about how good of a story Frederik Andersen was and coming out as the best goalie in the playoffs
series. Yeah,
he did not play game 3.
Yeah,
they did not. They benched him after 2, and that's personally not what I would have done, because that 5-0 loss was not, man, our goalie sucked. No, it was everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody sucked.
It was also our slow playing style does not match what these guys are doing to us.
No.
Our roster does not match what we're facing.
The game 3 loss extends what I find to be the funniest streak in hockey. 0-15 straight now. Conference final losses for the Hurricanes dating back to 2008.
I was in 8th grade. That is a long time.
I was 6 the last time the Hurricanes won a game in the Eastern Conference final.
That's even scarier.
And my thing is, it's like, man, I feel like if you put the worst team in who was the worst team in the league this year? Let's San Jose was god awful.
Probably,
right?
Yeah.
God awful product on the ice. They had fun, but they were bad. If you put them in 15 games against a team that made the Final Four, I feel like they'd win 3 or 4 out of 15.
Out of 15.
Yeah. They'd grab more than 0. Like, I don't know how you do that.
15.
And have such.
I'll give you that.
I don't even know how you recover from this type of streak, because at some point you can't just go, man, we got swept. No, you're getting swept every year.
Yeah.
Who gets swept every year? and looks great.
Carolina, apparently. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, they were very clearly number 4 of these Final Four. Yeah. I tried to be nice about it in the season preview and be like, oh, they could steal a game or 2. They're not gonna. They're.
You knew they had kind of outplayed their potential just by getting there.
Yeah, no, they played in New Jersey in the first round that didn't have Jack Hughes. Who they get in round 2? They got Washington, who just wasn't built for playoff hockey the kind of way that they needed to be.
Yeah.
And then they just get to their first Stanley Cup real contender, and it's not good enough.
Yeah.
It very clearly shows the skill gap between the 2 Eastern Conference divisions. The the Mid-Tropolitan Division is what we're going to call it, is just nowhere near what the Atlantic is from top to bottom.
The Atlantic East.
Yeah, you know what? I feel like most teams in the Atlantic could win the Mid-Tropolitan if they got to feed on, like, Pittsburgh and Philly. Like, They're just kind of bullying the bottom. The Atlantic really
I
doesn't
know of
have
one
that.
particular team that tends to struggle with those two teams no matter what, but
Yeah. So what should be some of the most entertaining hockey of the playoffs has turned out to be a bit of a dud of a conference final so far. We're seeing a 3-0 series lead that, if I had to guess, will end tomorrow. Almost certain that series ends in 4 at this point. And then a 2-1 series lead that feels like a 3-1 series lead for the Oilers. The Stars' backs are really against the wall.
It's a must-win for Dallas. Yeah,
100%. I don't care that they're going back to the American Airlines Center and 2 of the 3 coming back from 3-1 down is at home. It doesn't matter. You're not coming back there.
Yeah, because if the way they've been playing, even if they're able to win that game on home ice on Thursday, even being down 3-1 at that point, hypothetically, they're probably getting knocked out in Game 6. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a must win. They were much better today, but they need to be an even more improved version over what they were today. But I think that might kind of wrap up a bit of a shorter episode for us today. Again, a little shorter just because it's just more of the same. Hopefully we'll be back with, even if they do lose, I'm assuming we'll see a different game. I would hope to see a different game on Monday. Not Monday, Tuesday. So we will be back Tuesday night. Again, we really appreciate all of you listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, follow, rate, do whatever, share. Really helps us out. We really appreciate it. And we will see you back here for Game 4.